Okay, I think we can get started. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Alessandra and I'm part of the team here at Quality Smart Solutions. We are really glad you could be here for this session on GMP compliance and site audits. I'll start us off with a quick overview, and then I'll hand things over to Marie, who will guide us through the main part of today's webinar. As we go along, please feel free to pop your questions into the chat. We're going to collect them and answer, or we're going to try to answer most of them, at least, during the Q&A at the end. And that said, if something makes sense to answer right away, then Marie may jump in. One last note, after the session, we'll send the recording to you by email, so just keep an eye on your inbox. Before we get into the details, I would just like to introduce our main speaker today, Marie Sweeney. Marie has spent over 5 years helping companies navigate FDA and Health Canada licensing and compliance. She has a background in both business management and pharmaceutical sciences, which means she brings a really great mix of technical knowledge and practical insight. She's worked with organizations of all sizes, and she's passionate about helping teams feel more confident when it comes to regulatory compliance. On top of that, she's often speaking at trade shows and industry events, so we are very lucky to have her leading us through this session today. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you so much, Alessandra.
So here's what we'll be covering. We're going to start by looking at what to expect during a site audit, then move into GMP requirements across different life science sectors. From there, we'll compare Health Canada and FDA requirements, which is especially important for companies operating across borders. We'll also look at the role of GMP training, how to build a strong QMS, some practical tips, and of course, we'll wrap things up with a Q&A at the end. So I think that's it. With that, I'll pass things over to Marie, who will walk us through the webinar. Marie, over to you, please.
Thanks so much, Alessandra, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We've got a lot to cover in these topics today, so I'm just going to hop right into it. Like Alessandra said, please put any questions that you have. Oh, if you are listening on LinkedIn, you may need to add an additional drop. There is an add-on. Sorry, Alessandra, I'm not sure if you're seeing they're having some issues.
Yeah, I see that.
Let's see. And Nada, I think you are just frozen at the moment because we have moved through some slides.
Can you see my screen? Can you see the first slide? What is a site audit? Marie's voice is breaking up.
Is that any better, everyone? Yes, it is better, Riskia? Okay, so the audio is sounding a little bit better. Okay,
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, perfect. If it cuts out again, please somebody just jump into the chat there, and we'll press some buttons and see if we can clear it up again. Okay, so we are going to hop right into this, and let's start with what exactly is a site audit. So a site audit is a comprehensive evaluation of your facility, processes, and the documentation to ensure that you're compliance with all the regulatory requirements and GMP standards for your license, be it a DEL, an MDEL, NHP site licensing, registration for your dietary supplements, food and beverages, across the board. And audits typically occur during new licenses, renewal of applications. We recommend doing them routinely with your own staff and potentially a third party, and pre-market evaluation and verification for new products. Alessandra, can we see the next slide, please?
Marie, some people are saying that the audio is bad again. Maybe if you could try disconnecting and connecting again, just to see if that's gonna get better. For me, on my end, it's working just fine, so I don't.
It's clear. Okay.
Yeah.
I just changed the setting one more time, so let me know if that's clearing up again. Maybe I just turn the headphones off and go without and see what happens. Okay, is that clearer now? Okay, I'm going to talk for a little bit. We'll see if it's gotten any clearer, and if not, we will try something else again. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. All right, so moving on to what does a typical site audit process look like? There are typically 3 phases throughout this process. We're looking at a pre-audit phase, during your audit, and a post-audit. So we've already taken a look at when site audits actually take place. But again, just as a quick renewal, for new license applications, first impressions for your NHP, DEL, and MDEL categories, renewal processes, keeping your compliance in check, compliant driven. So when do things go bump in the night with quality issues, and when are we going to address those? Routine surveillance, regular checkups, just like a yearly dentist visit, making sure your operation is healthy and ready to keep running compliantly and ready for the next steps. And then as well for pre-market verification. So before launching a product or making any major changes that could trigger your internal audit processes as well. We're sticking more towards today talking about prep for when government agencies come to do these. So we always recommend doing pre-audits and mock audits. This way you are best prepared for when those grumpy auditors come in from the regulatory bodies. You want to be able to impress them as much as possible. So what to expect during these phases? If you're in the pre-audit preparation stage, we're looking at you will get a notification period. These times vary dependent on what your license is and when those renewals take place. You're also going to want to make sure that you have your documentation ready and polished for review. You want to check your internal readiness, again, running those mock audits, and then brief and prep your team to ensure that they are ready to answer any questions that may come up during an audit. So during the audit extravaganza, they are always stressful. Take a deep breath. If you are monitoring your compliance throughout the year, they will be stressful, but they won't be the end of the world. So during that audit, your first step will always be an opening meeting, usually with management and your inspectors. They will introduce themselves, clarify the scope of what they will be auditing that day, and review a schedule with you so you know what's coming up. Number 2 is going to be your facility tour with the inspectors. They're going to look at things like your infrastructure, conditions, cleanliness, workflow, storage. And then moving on to the next step, they are going to take a deep dive into your documentation. They're going to be looking at things like your SOPs and implementation, batch consistency, your training and competency records, quality control that you have in place, as well as any trends that they see, complaints and follow-up investigations to any complaints that you've received. They are going to take a look at your supplier checks and material controls, equipment calibration and maintenance, staff interviews for knowledge and problem solving within their particular roles, system checks for your data integrity and safety security, sampling of your raw materials and finished products, and any real-time observations of production and cleaning schedules. Post your audit, usually within 2 weeks of the visit, you will have an exit meeting with your initial inspectors. They are going to discuss any findings, offer some clarification if you require it, and brainstorm with you for corrective actions if any were identified as needed. Another step would be if any issues pop up, we're going to tackle corrective action requests. If you're working with a third party, they will provide recommendations, quotes, and that type of thing at this point to help you get through those things, or you can choose to take them in-house. We'll also look at ways to fix any major nonconformances that are noted and note minor tweaks for improvement in the future. And then if necessary, there may be a follow-up inspection recommended or requested just to ensure that anything that you have done during your corrective actions have been implemented correctly and you are ready to move into that next audit phase. All right. So next, what are those key areas of focus during a site audit? What are the auditors really going to be taking a look at and kind of providing feedback on? Number one is going to be your premises and equipment. They want to ensure that you have ample space for all your equipment and materials. You have an optimal climate control to avoid any excessive heat or cold. Ensure all the gear is well maintained and operational, that you have clear separation for your products. You implement security measures as required, including as well your pest management programs, locks, all that fun stuff. Then we're going to take a look at your personnel's qualifications and training. They're going to clarify roles and responsibilities within your team, verify the competency through appropriate credentials and training programs, provide both an initial and ongoing training evaluation, demonstrate skills and maintain necessary documentation. There will be an emphasis on your hygiene practices, including hand washing, gowning, appropriate attire, and whatnot. Next thing they're going to take a look at are raw material controls. So that they will conduct through supplier evaluations, inspect incoming materials, and perform necessary testing, reviewing your documentation for those, confirming the identity and quantity and quality of your materials, similar to assessing the powers that be, quarantine materials until they receive approval and how you are handling those, and then ensuring proper storage and careful handling of products and raw materials. They will also take a look at your production processes to ensure that you're maintaining a comprehensive guide for production procedures, monitoring each batch for consistency, implementing checks and balances during your production, regular cleaning of equipment and refresh of any supplies that are necessary. And they will also take a look and analyze data to resolve any discrepancies and how your team has systems in place to do this when they are not there. Next thing is going to be your quality control systems. Oh, sorry, I'll just let in. Alessandra, just to repeat, session will probably be about 45 minutes, and we're hoping to have a 15-minute Q&A towards the end. And again, everything will be recorded, so if you do have to hop off early, we understand it's the middle of a workday, and you will receive a recording at the end of our session. Okay, so just hop right back into it. Sorry, quality control systems. These ensure that you have qualified personnel overseeing any testing, that you utilize high quality testing methods and third parties, assess the products for stability, and that you're managing your reference samples according to high standards. They're also going to investigate any deviations that have been recorded and what your outcomes were for consistency. And then finally, they are going to take a look at documentation and record keeping. This is to ensure that you're maintaining strict control over your documentation. You are ensuring your data's integrity and reliability. You're conducting thorough batch reviews on a regular basis, that you're documenting all your changes, and that you organize your records for efficient access and retrieval. So moving into our next section is going to be what those GMP requirements are across each of the categories. So let's start with natural health products. So the key GMP ingredients for addressing NHP site licenses and NHPs themselves is your site license compliant. Number one, ensuring that your manufacturing facility adheres to all regulations regarding manufacturing, packaging, labeling, importing, similar to like a royal decree and legitimacy. Number two is our personnel expertise. You want to ensure that you have a team assembled that is highly trained and well-versed in the principles of GMP in association to their roles. Third is our pristine facilities. Establish a clean and organized environment that effectively prevents contamination and just employee chaos. We've all worked in those environments before. They're not fun for staff or for your quality. We want to ensure that there is high quality equipment. Invest in superior equipment accompanied by comprehensive manuals for thorough cleaning and maintenance. This just makes your life easier and your product a higher quality. Then we'll also be looking at the importance of raw materials and verify the authenticity of ingredients through rigorous testing and obtain a certificate of analysis, otherwise known as a COA. Then you also want to consider your production protocols. You want to adhere to established procedures for master production and batch records. Consider your laboratory testing and controls. So conducting thorough tests to confirm identity, purity, potency, and overall quality of all of your materials. And then finally, we have the comprehensive documentation. General rule in everything associated with GMP, and I'll probably say it several times today, is if it's not written down and it's not recorded, it didn't happen and you can't prove otherwise. So maintain those meticulous records at all times, and this ensures complete retention of all relevant information. And then what are the key critical focuses when we are looking at natural health products and NHP site licensing? Raw material verification. Number one, implement mandatory testing to ascertain a true identity of all of your ingredients. You want to prevent contamination by establishing a robust measure to guard against any microbial, chemical, or cross-contamination. Batch record keeping. Again, documentation, documentation, documentation. There's those of us in QA. But document every step of the production process and retain all critical information. Ensure your stability testing is completed to provide substantial evidence of your product shelf life through the proper testing procedures. Recall procedures are also incredibly important. So you want to make sure you have an efficient system for retrieving products from a distribution channel if and when necessary. Next would be your adverse event monitoring. Implement a strong monitoring system to track and respond to any safety incidents that arise. 90% of the time, they're just somebody who maybe didn't read the label properly, but you do want to have all your proof and evidence that you have addressed and dealt with these issues. And then your label verification and any claim substantiation. So ensure that every claim and dosage recommended is supported by credible evidence. Sorry. All right, next, in moving up a step from your requirements for NHP are your drug establishment licenses. So beyond the requirements for NHP licensing, you are also going to experience more stringent environmental controls, so implementation of classified areas, air handling systems, and great environmental monitoring systems. Then you also have advanced equipment qualifications that ensure compliance through the installation qualification, otherwise known as an IQ, operational qualifications, OQs, and performance qualification, PQs. You want to ensure that you have validated analytical methods. So the provision of a comprehensive validation package encompassing your accuracy, precision, and specificity. I hate this word. Specificity studies. And then as well, you want to consider change control procedures. So the establishment of formal evaluation and approval processes for any manufacturing changes that you undergo, that you have a system in place for your deviation investigations, so you can conduct systematic investigations of all deviations, accompanied by a thorough root cause analysis. This helps prevent any issues in the future. Then you have a supplier qualification program. So engage in comprehensive assessments and ongoing monitoring of all of your suppliers. You know, the quality of your supplies equals the quality of the product that you were bringing to market. And then as well, you want to have batch release procedures in place to review and release each batch by a qualified individual. There's annual product reviews as well that are required. So a systematic evaluation of product quality and manufacturing performances. Now, there are some unique considerations when we are looking at drug establishment licenses. Some of these include sterility requirements, so compliance with aseptic processing, sterilization, validation, and environmental monitoring protocols for sterile products. Then there's also controlled substance handling, so the implementation of enhanced security measures as appropriate, accountability, and reporting requirements. And then as well, we have temperature mapping requirements and monitoring. So you want to have a comprehensive validation of your storage and distribution conditions to, again, you are adding weight to your claims that you are producing this quality product, especially when dealing with drugs. And then there's also clean room protocol requirements. So the maintenance of classified manufacturing environments with qualified personnel, your computer system validation. So again, we have adherence to 21 CFR Part 11 for electronic records and signatures. You need to have validation processes in place for employing prospective, concurrent, or retrospective validation approaches, and pharmacovigilance, which is the establishment of enhanced monitoring and reporting systems for any adverse events that you have in place, or not in place, but that may occur. So next, at a very high level for medical devices, but if you do have additional questions about medical devices, let me know and we'll forward you on to the appropriate people. But the key distinctions when looking at a medical device over NHP site licensing and drug establishment licenses are the requirements for ISO 13485, which is a quality management system, adoption of a risk-based approach and integrating that into your design controls. There's an emphasis on CAPA, which is corrective and preventative actions. And then you have obligations related to post-market surveillance. Okay, so food and pet foods. Ironically, they kind of sit together, even though they do have different requirements. But you want to consider the need for HACCP overview, which is a hazard analysis and critical control point. It's a comprehensive approach to ensuring food safety. You're basically going to identify where risks can happen and then address how you're going to prevent them from happening. It's a defensive play, basically. So you're going to implement preventative controls. You're going to be looking at supplier verification. Really strong verification programs just help the integrity of your business as well as everyone else. Environmental monitoring is also proactively identifying and combating those bacterial and microbial contaminants that may happen. You want to ensure that you are managing any allergens in place, and then traceability technology. So enhancing your supply chain traceability and making sure that you can address and recall as required. And then any crossover considerations that you might want to have, which is if you have food and pet food in the same building, or you have an NHP and a food in the same building, is you want to be able to ensure that you are preventing any cross-contamination, that you have a separation strategy in place, basically. You also want to ensure that you have cleaning protocols with validated methods, that you are looking at personnel and equipment coordination and streamlining operations for safety and cleanliness. Preventative scheduling. So in establishing a timeline that minimizes food safety risks. This is your sanitation program, your maintenance program for your equipment, pest control programs, all those things that just ensure that your product is the best on the market. Let's see, cross-contamination. Another part, oh, sorry, can you just go back the slide 1 minute? Thanks, Alessandra. A couple of other things is you want to make sure that you're physically separating your production lines, that you have dedicated equipment for distinct processes, that you have an optimized HVAC system, and as well labeling insights, making sure that you have accurate nutritional analysis, that you are maintaining this anytime that you have a change in your suppliers. This could affect what those numbers are, that you have ingredient transparency, allergen notifications, any health claims that are substantiated, nutritional requirements, and making sure that you have your analysis standards are on key, and then vitamin content verification and shelf life assessment. All right, so now we're going to look at navigating those two regulatory worlds, Health Canada and FDA. They do vary while kind of working hand in hand a bit, but for organizations that are operating within North American markets or considering entering that cross-border expansion time of your careers, making sure that you know the key differences between Health Canada and FDA is crucial for strategic planning, audit preparation, and effective resource allocation. So there are some fundamental philosophy differences. When you're looking at Health Canada, it focuses on pre-market authorization with the site licensing model. In very general terms, Health Canada is a proactive model, whereas Health Canada or FDA is more of a reactive model. So again, under Health Canada, you're looking at category-specific requirements for NHPs, drugs, medical devices, foods, and everything else. And then it implements a risk-based inspection program with advance notice, which is always lovely. And then it's more of a collaborative enforcement approach. They will work with you to correct issues as long as they see that you are dedicated to your quality. And then as well, when we're looking at the FDA, it utilizes a registration system with post-market emphasis, again, reactive as opposed to proactive. It maintains unified CGMP standards across most of these categories. And then unlike Health Canada, they like to show up unannounced. So you want to make sure that you are prepared at all times, and then it issues more aggressive warning letters and import alerts. So your stuff can get held at the border in terms of ingredients, if not maintaining your systems properly. Okay, so licensing versus registration. Health Canada, again, it's a site license is mandatory prior to starting your operations for manufacturing, packaging, importing, wholesaling, distributing. As well, product licenses are required for all NPNs, DINs, and MDL products. Licenses cannot be transferred without prior approval. It usually is not an easy process. And then periodic review is necessary along with your compliance verification. So the FDA requires facility registration, but it doesn't equal an approval. That will likely happen when they do a surprise audit and show up and check you out. There's also product listing notifications are essential. There's biannual renewal requirements and emphasis on post-market surveillance. Okay, so product category comparisons, natural health products versus dietary supplements. In Health Canada, we have a mandatory licensing system. You have to identify all and test all raw materials, and product-specific NPNs are required before market entry. The FDA is a registration, not pre-approval. You are required to have compliance with 21 CFR Part 111 and post-market enforcement models. So the key difference is Health Canada mandates proof of compliance prior to sales, while the FDA allows for market entry and has compliance expectations that they will confirm throughout the future. When looking at pharmaceutical products or DINs, Health Canada has a schedule-based classification system. It's site-specific licensing, and they have stringent quality assurance person requirements. whereas the FDA is more prescriptive with that CGMP regulation, 21 CFR 210-11, a detailed validation requirements, and then there's an emphasis on your quality unit. The key difference when dealing with pharmaceuticals is the FDA regulations are more detailed and prescriptive, whereas Health Canada utilizes guidance documents and has very clear standards of what can and can't happen. Okay, so product category comparison, moving into medical devices. Health Canada uses ISO 13485 as their foundation. It has the CMD CAS system and participation in MD-SAP are as requirements. The FDA is a quality system regulation under 21 CFR 820. I think I wrote that down. Yes, 820. And then an emphasis on your design controls. Your key differences are Health Canada directly embraces that ISO 13845, whereas the FDA has a separate quality system regulation, which is converging over time. And then moving into our pets and pet food differences. In Health Canada or Canada as a whole, CFIA oversight, which is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, you are required to follow the Safer Foods for Canadian Regulations and Act. License is required for importers and exporters, and your preventative controls are in place. FDA is following the Food Safety Modernization Act requirements coming into full effect January 2026, unless we see things change. But currently, this is where we're at. Then we have facility registration with the FDA, foreign supplier verification programs, and a more prescriptive preventative control rules on how you're going to deal with your PCP and HACCP. Key difference being CFIA employs a risk-based licensing system, while the FDA has a broader facility registration without pre-approval, but there are stricter compliance requirements for FSMA, which is a foreign site manufacturing compliance. And sorry, I saw some questions in there. MD, oh gosh. Okay, MD-SAP has to do with your manufacturer if you're using a third party, and I can't remember the acronym for CMD-CAS. If you shoot us a quick email, Prina, I will get you those details post the webinar. As I said, we're keeping the MDL section a little bit on the shorter side because it is not my specialty, but I can definitely get you those answers if you just shoot us an email at the end. We'll have an email address for you, okay? So now we're going to look at the inspection and enforcement differences for Health Canada and the FDA. Okay, so Health Canada is a risk-based scheduling with 2 to 4 weeks of advance notice, which is lovely. Occasionally, they have major concerns or have received a troubling complaint or report of your operations. They may show up unannounced. It's focused, it's category specific on their audits. Observations are accompanied with correction timelines. So they will say, hey, we've observed this. You have 4 weeks to tell us how you fix that problem, or whatever window that they give you. There's follow-up inspections for any significant issues and possible actions that may take if you are not found to be in compliance are stop sale orders, voluntary recalls with oversight, and compliance letters. The FDA, on the other hand, unannounced. They just show up. It's very standard practices for them, and you have to let them in. No questions are asked. There's comprehensive evaluations of your facilities at this point. There are form observations that are issued at the conclusion of these inspections that you do have to address. They utilize public warning letters, import alerts that can block your products or your raw materials immediately. And then there's enforcement actions that include public warning letters, import detentions, consent decrees, injunctions and seizures, as well as mandatory recalls, although those are rare throughout the US. So the key difference is the FDA's enforcement is more public and aggressive, while Health Canada takes a more collaborative approach while retaining its authority over the processes. Okay, so if you are working in both countries, it is best to know what your best practices are to keep regulators on both sides of the border happy and confident in your activities and your products. So understand your inspector's obsession. The FDA is all about the system, while the FDA zeroes in on the product itself. So document like a pro. You're going to need this for both sides. Both love a good paper trail. Again, if it's not written down, it's not recorded, it never happened. Skillful teams, impress them with your staff that knows their stuff. And training is incredibly important at this point. Honesty is key. They appreciate knowing that you are aware as opposed to trying to be perfect. They know no one's perfect. They know errors happen. They know things happen. They want to know how you've addressed it and to ensure that it will not happen again. And then ensuring that you have all your data right there. Quick access shows that you're involved and aware of your operations, which again builds confidence. So keep leveling up and show that you have a focused culture that wins them over every single time. Unless you've completely destroyed your operations. All right. So let's look at the critical role that GMP training plays in this. I know we are tight on time because of a few sound issues in the beginning. So I apologize if I'm going through this too quickly, but we will again send out these recordings once we are done, as well as we will provide an email address for any questions that are not addressed. We are happy to speak with you one-on-one over the coming weeks. Okay. So how to use your training package as a foundation for your quality management system successes. So effective training is not merely a regulatory obligation. It serves as a cornerstone to your operational excellence. We recommend a multi-level training approach. This ensures that each member of your team is ready to meet the requirements of their role. Executive management level. Top. We are looking at regulatory landscape awareness. Stay informed of current and emerging regulatory requirements. They are changing in both countries on a regular basis and being updated. You are I didn't know, not an acceptable reason for not following those regulations. You want to ensure that you have quality policy development in place. So formulate and communicate the organization's quality commitments throughout the organization. Resource allocation decisions. So make strategic investments in quality systems and training. This saves money over time. Crisis management protocols. So lead effectively during your recalls, investigations, and regulatory actions that take place or may take place. And strategic quality planning. Focus on long-term development and enhancement of your quality system. You want to build strong regulatory relationships. So foster trust with those regulatory bodies. And then as well, you want to ensure that you are ready for risk assessment and management. So grasp the business risks associated with quality failures. Time is money, quality is money. So now we're going to look at our middle management and supervisors. GMP implementation strategies. So translate training requirements into practical working instructions. Training program oversight. Manage training schedules, effectiveness, and documentation. Non-conformance investigations, lead root cause analysis and implement corrective actions. You want to ensure that they are ready for their communication protocols, act as a bridge between that senior management we just discussed and your production staff, and a bit of a liaison with your quality assurance and control team as well. Performance management, connect quality performance to employee development. Ongoing training keeps your staff involved and personally responsible for their actions. If they understand why they're doing something, they're more likely to continue to do something the way they've been taught appropriately. Then we are looking at resource planning. So ensuring that you have sufficient staffing and materials for maintaining quality operations and continuous improvement leadership. Drive process enhancements and efficiency gains. And then we're looking at our production staff. So these are hands-on GMP practice team members. So applying good manufacturing practices on a daily basis. Equipment operation procedures, ensuring the safe and effective use and maintenance of that equipment. Documentation requirements, make sure they know what is required of them to make sure that they are documenting everything throughout their job accurately and punctually. Personal hygiene standards. We would think that that is kind of self-evident, but again, make sure that they understand what their requirements are and that they are implementing those hygiene protocols. Make sure that they are capable and confident in problem recognition, identify and report quality issues in a timely manner, and they can start those CAPA actions. Batch record completion, document manufacturing activities properly. Cleaning and sanitation, so making sure that they are following and trained appropriately in effective cleaning procedures and verification. And then quality assurance control team. Okay, we're looking at the analytical method validation. That's developing and validating testing procedures for your raw materials and finished products. Investigation techniques, employ systematic approaches to resolve any quality issues, that they are responsible for audit preparation, to conduct internal audits and prepare for regulatory audit reports, regulatory interpretation, ensuring that they understand and apply regulatory guidance effectively, supplier management, qualify and continuously assess your suppliers to ensure that their quality is meeting your quality, and then change control evaluation. So they will evaluate the impact of proposed changes for product quality. Okay, so what are the elements of a good training program and what are some of the common gaps that we see with our customers? So the initial qualification training, some elements of which are you're looking at comprehensive orientation for your GMP principles, that they receive role-specific technical training, hands-on demonstration and practice, and written and practical competency testing. You can't just teach them and hope that they've learned it. You've got to confirm that they've learned that. So ongoing competency assessments, which may include periodic skills evaluation and testing, performance evaluation, knowledge retention verification, and skills gap identification and remediation. That sounds tough. Just if someone is lacking in a little category, they may have not been trained fully, or they may just need a refresher, and sending them in for a quick SOP refresher is always good for everyone involved. And then refresher training schedules are always important to maintaining that quality. You're looking at annual review of your GMP principles, updates on any regulatory changes, implementation of any new procedures that you've had in the last year, and lessons learned from any investigations that were conducted. And then we're looking at specialized role-based training, making sure that you have equipment-specific operational training, quality control analytic procedures, sanitation and cleaning validation, and computer system operation. If they don't know how to use them properly, you can't expect them to implement them properly. And then we're looking at documentation and record keeping, training matrix, competency assessments, continuous improvement tracking, pre and post training assessments, on-the-job performance monitoring, error rates, and trending and analysis of those error rates, and employee feedback collection. If your training program isn't working, you need to address how to make that better, and your employees will let you know if they don't feel like they have learned appropriately. So some of the common gaps that we see, again, sorry I'm rushing through this, but I want to make sure we have some time for Q&A. Number one, insufficient hands-on practice. Number two, a lack of regular updates. If they don't know, they can't implement. Pure documentation of training. Again, if you haven't recorded that you've trained them, you can't prove that you have, that's going to be an issue. And then again, tied into that, missing competency assessments. So you want to make sure you're maintaining those quizzes that you're giving them at the end, that you're not doing, another gap would be you're not doing regular updates to training or refreshers. And then failure to assess a training effectiveness are the major gaps that we see. Had one more, please. And one more. Sorry, Alessandra. Okay, so how do you measure if your training is effective? Making sure that you are conducting knowledge retention assessments, practical skills evaluations, performance improvement metrics, audit findings and trends, and employee feedback surveys. Okay, so again, we're going to tighten this up. I have more to say, but we can talk about it on individuals. But if we are looking at the training's impact on your operations and renewals, some of the major benefits that we are looking at in a strong program are reduced errors and deviations. Consistent procedure execution leads to improved first-time right performance. Enhanced compliance through proactive issue identification, consistent documentation practices, improved audit readiness, and then streamlined operations through faster task completion, reduced supervision, improved workflow efficiency, better resource utilization, flexible cross-training workforce, and reduced downtime. All of this streamlines your operations and increases margins. Then you have your direct cost savings, reduced product waste and batch failures. Right there, that's good money. Decreased investigation times, less time of your QA team and management investigating things so that they can be moving towards, your new products and your new actions. You also have lower correction action costs, minimize regulatory penalties, and reduce insurance premiums. Indirect benefits are improved employee confidence and retention, enhanced company reputation, faster product approvals, increased customer satisfaction, and higher operational efficiencies. So we're now going to look at building a robust QMS system through training and ongoing monitoring and improvement. Okay, so integration strategies for your training is align your training with your business objectives. Number 2 is connect training to performance matrix. Make sure that your training is actually going to be effective. Next would be establish any feedback loops, so regular employee feedback on training effectiveness, manage review of training program performance, continuous improvement based on audit findings, so you're continually striving to be better than before, and then integration of lessons learned from any investigations. And then number 4 are regular program reviews and updates. So annual training program assessment, regulatory requirement updates as they come online, technology advancement incorporations, if you're transferring from being a paper system to actually having a computer system where you can track things, and then industry best practice adaptation. There's some technology solutions. I'm going to skip over this slide just for the sake of time, but again, it'll be in your recording so you can review these. And then our best practices and tips and tricks for the industry. Sorry, Alessandra, can you move to slide 28? Okay, so let's take a look at our audit preparation checklist. Number 1 is conduct internal mock audits. So schedule regular self-assessments using external audit criteria. You can engage third-party consultants such as ourselves, Quality Smart Solutions, for any objective perspectives. As someone who's worked in these facilities before, if you walk past that corner that's just full of dust and stuff every single day, 10 times a day, you're likely not going to see it. Bringing in a third party who has a separate set of eyes, who haven't kind of just seen the daily life of everything, they can call out things that we just become conditioned to. So practice with different audit scenarios and inspector styles, document and address all findings before the actual audit. And then you're going to want to review and update your training records, make sure everything's up to date, that your assessments are proper, and that you are getting that feedback from your team. And then prepare management presentation materials. So develop company overview, quality system presentation, compile your key performance metrics, take a look at your trends, prepare responses for any anticipated questions, and create facility maps and process flow diagrams if they need to be updated. Moving on, our next 2 parts of your checklist are organize your documentation. Again, if it's not recorded, you can't find it, it didn't happen, and you don't get credit for it. And then ensure that your staff is available and prepared for your mock audits, your third-party audits, and your government audits and regulatory bodies. Okay, so we're going to move on to some red flags to avoid during auditing and training. We are going to ensure that you don't have any inconsistent training documentation with gaps, conflicting information, or outdated materials. Ensure that you do not have poor record organization. You want to make sure everything is clean and easily accessed, that you have consistent filing systems, and you don't have any missing electronic backups. And then ensuring that you don't have outdated systems and procedures. If you've updated how you do something, make sure your SOP reflects that and that your staff has been properly trained on it. And then personnel qualification gaps. We have seen Health Canada and a bit with FDA coming in and double checking, triple checking, and questioning QAP qualifications lately. So ensuring that your staff is trained for those critical roles, that you do not have any missing competency assessments, that you do have proper supervision of your new employees or employees moving into new roles, and that you have the appropriate skill verification documentation, be it education or on-site training. So what can we see for success strategies? Number one, continuous training programs. Number two is through documentation. Make sure it is thorough at all times. Four is cultivating a quality culture and ensuring that people feel involved and have personal ownership, and then staying updated on all regulatory changes and updates. And then number three, investing in that training infrastructure. Again, the more your staff is ready to maintain compliance, the more you are going to be in compliance. Then, so as we move into getting towards our Q&A, which is going to be a little after an hour, and I do apologize, everyone. But some immediate assessment questions to ask yourself are, what is your training coverage? Are there any documented training for every single regulatory category that you manufacture? Do you have proper competency verification in place? Can you show that each employee is fully qualified for their role? Monitor your training effectiveness. So ensure that you track results and improve your training programs over time. And then looking at, are you audit ready? Would your organization be prepared for an unannounced inspection tomorrow if either Health Canada or the FDA showed up? And then consider your continuous improvement. Are lessons learned consistently built into your training programs and your GMP program? All right, so our summary and key takeaways for today are site audits are comprehensive evaluations requiring thorough preparation. You can do these in-house with a third party, but either way, you want to make sure that you are ready at all times for an audit. And then GMP requirements will vary by category and by country, but share common foundational elements. Training is a cornerstone to all operational excellence. I don't care what kind of company that you have, and regulatory compliance is key to have properly trained staff. And then well-trained staff do reduce the cost and improve your renewal success rates, and a robust QMS or quality management system depends on continuous learning and improvement. So now we're going to move into our Q&A. I do understand some of you do need to hop off. I completely understand. So feel free to drop any questions into the chat if you haven't already. And Alexandra is going to be helping by highlighting some questions on the screen so that I can go through those together with you. Are you sure nobody has a question? Nobody's dealing with anything today that they want to check? An opinion about the weather? I'll take it all. We do have a few more minutes before we wrap up the full hour. So what we can do until any questions come through is I'm just going to touch a little bit more on the integration strategies of building a robust QMS system. So when we're looking at, oh, we have a question. Actually, yeah, Gary, they are relatively the same when addressing an issue that's been identified during an audit. Proper reporting, proof. So if it's, say it's an equipment concern, that you have a maintenance record, if you brought in a third party to assess something, you want to ensure that, again, it all comes down to that documentation and proof that you have trained the people that are affected by where those observations were found, have been appropriately retrained and are ready to maintain that level of quality assurance. Thank you, Amit. I did feel a little more rushed today than typical. I do know that some people need to hop off. Time is tight. So if you do have to run and you have questions, or there's just a question you want to ask that you don't want to share with the group today, please feel free to email us at info@QualitySmartSolutions, and either myself or one of our sales team will get back to you with some answers and some guidance as required. There's also a ton of blogs and great resources on our website, QualitySmartSolutions.com. Nada, can you give me a little bit? Okay. Oh, we'll start with Ruska. So Health Canada audits are graded on a major, minor, and an observation. Your major concerns are going to be like, oh, you haven't done any raw material testing. You have pests found in your facility and don't have a proper pest management system. They have found chemical or biological contamination in either your finished product or your raw materials. Something minor could be hand washing stations didn't have appropriate amount of paper towel. They could be pretty minor. And it depends on who your auditor is and what their focus is. Again, you will have that initial meeting when an audit starts, so they are going to let you know where their priorities are going to lie for that session. Doesn't mean you're going to have time to run around and fix any little things while they are there. But yeah, a lot of it does come down to personal, because it is a human that is reviewing our processes and their understanding of those processes. Okay, so next, does the supplier non-confirming require to be a standalone or be within the non-confirming procedure? Let's see. Nada, can you give me a bit of a scenario for that? It's just a little bit vague, and I want to make sure I'm giving you appropriate information. Okay, so now if you want to resend that to me with maybe a little bit more of a specific situation, I can get you a direct answer. Not a problem. Oh, nonconformity with your suppliers. Okay, so you can continue to use that supplier as long as you conduct a quality assurance, you get some COAs, and I would request to see their updated SOPs to ensure that they are updating that conformity and following everything that they need to, not only for regulatory, but you may also have some very specific requirements for your own operations, which you can lay out in any sales agreements with them as well. So yeah, a nonconformity doesn't mean you have to cut all ties, but it does mean that you have to go back and double check and enforce what your expectation is for the quality of your raw materials or equipment. And yes, absolutely, if you have to hop off, please feel free to do so. I am going to address any additional questions, and I'll stay on for another couple of minutes. The new 21 CFR 480 effect audits. There will be an updated audit form to highlight any of those recent changes and upgrades, any additions. So yes, we are going to be creating a checklist for our customers to compare against the old 21 CFRs and ensure that you have addressed any regulatory changes that are specific to your operations. I hope that answers your question, Christine. And again, feel free to shoot me an email and we can get you an overview of that as well. So Nada, I would have separate SOPs for your supplier verification program, and your raw materials program. It depends on either major or minor findings. If it is a major finding, they're going to want you, usually typically within 10 business days, to at least respond with how you are going to address that finding. They do understand some findings are going to take more than 2 weeks to respond to, and you will work with your auditor to determine the appropriate date and time that those activities need to be updated and addressed. But typically you are given 14 days to at least come up with a response. Thanks, Priyanka. Any last minute questions that anybody wants to squeeze in before we hop off today? Well, we've had some really good ones going. My pleasure. And again, I do apologize for it feeling a little rushed today with those sound issues that we had at the beginning. I am always happy to chat, as is our entire team. So please feel free to take advantage of the contact us information. You can book a call, you can shoot us an email, and we will direct you to the appropriate specialist. Like I said, I am not great in the MDELT, but we'll make sure that someone with the strength in that area can answer your questions for you. And Alessandra, I shall leave the close to you.
So I guess our time is up. That's it, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really hope this session gave you a clear picture of what site audits and GMP compliance look like. Before you head out, please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen. It will take you to a quick form where you can book a free consultation with our team. You can also email us directly at info@qualitysmartsolutions.com. And if you want to learn more about our services, feel free to visit our website at any time. Just a quick reminder before we wrap up, we'll be sending you the recording shortly. So everything we covered today will land right in your inbox. And if you think of more questions afterward, like Marie said, no problem at all. Just get in touch and we'll be happy to help. Thanks again for spending your time with us today, and we hope to connect with you again soon. Bye.